This situation quickly became ugly, and then Brittany Griner appeared out of nowhere. What happened? Did he shoot without a shirt on? I thought I saw him shooting at his pool. Yes, you heard correctly. Brittany Griner was caught on camera calling Caitlin Clark a trash white girl. Now, the WNBA is in disarray, but this isn't just about one player losing their temper. What Griner said and the league is doing about it exposes what actually happened on that court. Why has this one incident escalated an already intense feud between Caitlin Clark and some of the WNBA's biggest stars? And most importantly, why does it seem like no one is defending the league's biggest rising star? Stay tuned, because you'll understand why. A double standard that could destroy women's basketball fans are demanding answers. Media outlets are blowing up. And the league's silence is making things worse. Fans claim that this is the biggest scandal in WNBA history. But Brittany Griner's shocking remarks during a heated game were captured on live TV as she left the court. Cameras captured her mouth saying, "Trash effing white girl" toward Caitlin Clark, the ticky-tacks that we were talking about earlier today. The video went viral almost immediately. And prominent commentators like Skip Biz didn't waste any time in pointing out what they saw. I'm not entirely sure what was going on with what the cameras captured Brittany Griner saying on the bench after she had fouled out against Caitlin Clark's Fever in Atlanta. I wanted to comment on this only after the NBA, allowed the WNBA to look into it. But we haven't heard anything at all from the WNBA. And Brittany Griner hasn't said anything, which I think is important if a white person, a white player, saying fucking a black girl on the bench out of rage and being caught on camera would have been a career-ending move, according to Skip, who warned on national television. However, this is where things took a darker turn. The WNBA did nothing, no fine, no suspension, no official statement, silence, this. Regardless of the reason behind Brittany Griner's remarks, however, what she said or who she said it to, I want to know if the WNBA is okay with one of its players saying "white girl" on the bench and being caught on camera saying that. Obviously, fans were outraged despite the league's very public No Space for Hate campaign that was launched earlier this year. The double standard was obvious. If Clark had used that kind of racially charged language, the consequences would have been swift and severe, but there was no accountability when Brittany Griner used that slur on national television. Let's not pretend that this was a one-off incident. It's playing a game, and this is what Brittany Griner calls it. I wasn't going to comment on any of this until it happened. Watch what she says. The internet has responded to this. Here's Brittany Griner playing against the Indiana Fever. And look what she's saying. Go ahead. Rob, the ticks that we were discussing earlier today are pretty as a result. The entire market reacts to this. Let's be honest, Brittany Gr. Clark has been the target of bullying since day one. She has been shoved, elbowed, and ridiculed, not for dirty play, but just for being great and white. We've all seen the videos of hard elbowing opponents on screens and slamming into her during inbound passes. She has also been subjected to constant maids-east bullying on the court, while maintaining her composure and setting rookie records. Remembered Angel Reese, who, following a previous altercation with Clark Reed, posted an image online ridiculing Clark as a white girl fleeing the fade with explicit references to violence. I saw that the post was from Angel Reed, or what I believed to be Angel Reed, or whatever I was told was Angel Reed about the white girl not wanting any of the fade, or something similar, and I assumed it had to be an error. Someone asked me about it, and I replied, no. Surely to God she would not have even been Angel Reed. The fact that I'm actually beginning to look into this makes me think, God, not only is this real, but you have media members who actually try to hold the WNBA, like to some kind of responsibility. They're talking about there's no room for hate, this and that and the other one. And you have a player who is openly calling for violence against far and wide away your most popular player, No action was taken. Other players shoved Clark after. Plays struck her in the face and even celebrated it. It hurts Clark, but despite everything, Caitlin Clark never lashes out, elbows back, or retaliates. Instead, she just plays her game and keeps breaking records. That's what makes this most recent incident so damning. Greer's outburst wasn't a heated moment of trash talk. Rather, it was purposeful, hateful, and captured on camera. In a recent interview, Brittney Griner expressed her frustration about the NBA, saying, "This is from Brittney. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands." Turns out that thousands of people are just sitting there watching on purpose. It's very disruptive. It's called a freaking game that they pay you money to play. Don't play the game. It's very disruptive. It's hilarious how everything works out. She says, claiming that Caitlin Clark is destroying what once made the WNBA great. But the WNBA, which hurried to look into fans' unsubstantiated claims of racism against Angel Reese, is now ignoring it when racism comes from a player. Commentators rushed to justify Griner's remarks, with some even saying she said whack call. Now, I think it was my old friend Jamal Hill. We used to work with her at ESPN. I think Jamal said Greer did say whack call. And that could be the case. But I'm not lip readers fans, and even sports media personalities confirmed what they saw. Trash effing white girl, but the footage doesn't lie. This is where things get even more explosive. While the league remains silent, another controversy that has been subtly circulating online for years, questions about Brittney Greer's biological identity resurfaced. A topless video from Greer's own Instagram showed a chest that looked completely flat without the usual surgical scarring one might expect. "I got my hand right here, Brittney. Brick. Thank you." The video remained up for more than 100 weeks without being flagged as female nudity by Instagram's AI system. Fans took this as yet another indication that something wasn't adding up. Greer's deep voice, bone structure, and on-court physical dominance. And fans started to openly question whether Greer had been giving herself an unfair advantage in competition. An anonymous viral post even claimed that Greer was never transgender, but was raised as a female on paper because her mother had decided that she wasn't a girl. She literally grabbed my chest and patted me like that, saying, "Look, no CH." I was so embarrassed, which is definitely disturbing. But the real scandal is this. In a league where fairness and transparency are supposed to be important, the WNBA is refusing to address any of it. Fans are now questioning everything, especially when Caitlin Clark, a biologically female athlete, is the one suffering. If that wasn't enough to spark outrage, many people still remember Greer's previous controversies, where she was arrested in Russia for carrying cannabis and then released in a contentious prisoner swap that exchanged her for the release of WNBA star Brittney. According to one critic, had that been a straight white girl, she'd probably still be rotting in a Russian prison. Greer was found guilty on drug charges in Russia today, and a judge sentenced her to 9 years in a penal colony. Where is the victimization? These are freaking millionaires. What are you talking about? Their attitude is one of entitlement, rather than humility, and their arrogance with receipts is not confidence. It's fine if you want fans, but if you want your league to act like a professional, okay. So the league already began underwater. And instead of fixing it, they're just making more holes in the boat. And think about Brittney Griner talking all that garbage. We traded the merchant of death for your ass, and now you're out there talking and acting racist on the freaking sideline? And it's disgusting, okay? That's why no one watches it. But it will still be watched. Fans and the media witness Caitlin Clark, the rookie who has been saving the WNBA's viewership, being bullied, targeted, and now racially insulted without protection. The WNBA leadership's silence is deafening, and neutral fans who watched Clark get abused are now witnessing it without any repercussions for the players involved. The hypocrisy couldn't be more obvious. If a white player said effing black girl skip bis, warned again, it would be a career ender. So why is it acceptable? The WNBA is currently at a crossroads as Brittany Grier's remarks have sparked a firestorm of controversy. Caitlin Clark's fans are incensed, neutral viewers are stunned, and the league's credibility will continue to erode until it addresses this blatant double standard. Racially target Caitlin Clark, but a complete scandal if the opposite happened. That's the question burning through every fan forum and media outlet right now. Simply put, Caitlin Clark has done nothing but improve women's basketball. She has broken viewership records, attracted millions of new fans, and is the WNBA's face. However, the players who are physically, verbally, and racially attacking her are being shielded by the very league she is helping to save. Let's be clear that this is no longer just trash talk. It's about fairness, integrity, and integrity. Whether or not biological women will still be able to compete on an equal basis in women's sports. Because if the WNBA doesn't shield its biggest star from this kind of abuse, what message does that send to all young girls watching? What message does it send to all female athletes who aspire to play at the highest level? The truth is that fans won't remain silent any longer, okay? The video is out, the words are clear, the hypocrisy is evident. And the league's attempt to hide it under the WNBA has a serious credibility issue on its hands if Brittany Grier can call Caitlin Clark a trash white girl on live TV with no repercussions, while Clark continues to be the epitome of professionalism. Fans are already casting their votes with their money and their voices. So the league must decide to enforce its own standards or risk losing the trust of the very audience it claims to serve. If you support Caitlin Clark and you believe in justice, integrity, and will be here, keeping the spotlight on every step of this story. And I believe Caitlin Clark has done that even in her first year in terms of being able to be that floor general. Don't remain silent in women's sports. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below to let the world know exactly what's happening. Because the only way this double standard ends is if the fans demand it. Incredibly improved. And I believe that although Caitlin can shoot from the logo, she improves her team. Candace Parker just said what all of Caitlin Clark's supporters have been saying all season, and it silenced Caitlin's detractors on national television. But what exactly did Candace say on ESPN? And why has this one interview sparked outrage and forced the WNBA to face its biggest controversy? Stay tuned, because this was the truth bomb no one was prepared to hear. Though it should have been a time for celebration. Caitlin Clark's ascent in the WNBA has revealed a profoundly uncomfortable truth about the league. A wave of jealousy, bitterness, and targeted hate that has overshadowed her incredible impact. It's not just whispers behind the scenes anymore. It's from players and media figures to leadership at the very top of the WNBA. A toxic resistance has taken hold. Hello, I'm Caitlin Clark, guard for the Indiana Fever. And I'm Caitlin Clark. Numbers speak for themselves. Caitlin Clark is driving the league's biggest growth in history. Setting records for attendance, selling out arenas, grabbing merchandise off the shelves, and generating an estimated $1 billion in revenue this year alone. However, rather than celebrating this success, the league appears intent on denying it, and worse. They've allowed a dangerous narrative to get out of hand. The signs were there from day one following Clark's incredible season opener against the Chicago Sky, a game that drew an incredible 2.7 million viewers, making it the most-watched WNBA regular season game in 25 years. Clark connects, dishing Smith hitting from three, and the league leads in fast break points. Boston rejects it. What the league did was launch an investigation into the fans for alleged hate speech, which, as the video shows, was based only on internet rumors. As Clark continued to dominate on the court, online hate campaigns intensified, spreading disgusting conspiracy theories, including one that accused her of using her assistant coach's baby as a prop. At the same time, real threats were made against Clark and her teammates. Messages with bullseyes drawn on players' faces, warnings of violence, and more. The headlines celebrating Clark's historic debut were hijacked. And the story suddenly shifted from basketball to controversy. The tension finally broke out because, when Candace Parker spoke out on ESPN, she exposed the entire system that had allowed this toxic culture to fester. Not just Caitlin Clark. When Candace Parker sat down on ESPN's First Take, no one anticipated the conversation to blow up the way it did. The WNBA was completely silent, made no statement, condemned, or offered any support for a league that consistently touts its values of inclusion and safety. My job was to leave the game better than I came into it. You think Cheryl Miller is resentful? That I had a league to play and number. I'm doing the same for Caitlin Clark and all the women in the WNBA. Candace's response was clear, powerful, and impossible to ignore. What transpired was a masterclass in leadership and a devastating blow to Caitlin Clark's critics. It began with a simple question. Was there resentment building in the WNBA over Clark's success? Who's contributed significantly to the WNBA's popularity? I'll stop there and move on to a more specific question, which is this. When we look at the WNBA, whether we've speculated about resentment or something else, it all boils down to the fact that there were a lot of women doing amazing work for the WNBA and basketball, and you just get the impression that people weren't appreciating what they had done. And what their combined contribution was to bring the WNBA to where it is now and where it is clearly headed. Can you talk about the general frustration that some people may have been experiencing, and whether you believe it is being resolved as you all prosper and continue to promote and uplift this league? It's crazy to me because I get asked a lot if I'm resentful of the WNBA's current state. My job was to leave the game in a better state than when I entered. With those words, Parker broke the jealousy narrative. There were no excuses or spin just. The fact that great leagues are built on uplifting the next generation. Candace also called out the toxic, racist narratives. Cheryl Miller is upset with me because I had a league to play in, but she's being the mentor that she is, supporting and loving Juju Watkins and sitting courtside cheering on him. I'm doing the same for Caitlin Clark and all the women in the WBA. The key is to keep the conversation about Clark focused on basketball. By doing so, we can effectively expand the game and directly challenge those who prioritize culture wars over on-court skill. I believe that rivalry is crucial, and I think that conversation is crucial. I watched when Kevin Durant returned to play Russell Westbrook, and everyone was watching. But I want to keep it within the game's parameters. In an earlier interview, Lisa Leslie, a Hall of Famer and one of the WNBA's most respected voices, echoed Parker's message. We cannot deny what Caitlin Clark has done for the game. What's most important now is that everyone has a Twitter finger. Everyone can reach the WNBA and make comments. But really, the key is let's keep it about basketball. That's my thing. And when we do that, then we're able to really grow the game and what it represents. Women's game, she's had a huge impact. On the Caitlin Clark effect, if more people are watching the game, why would we feel like we're being marketed to? We can't ignore what Caitlin Clark has done for the women's game, and I won't pretend it's something we don't see. Yes, she's had a huge impact on the game called the Caitlin Lynn Clark effect. Have we ever had teams have to enter larger arenas to play against each other? No, we haven't. I think we need to realize that when one player eats, we all eat. And as we all have more opportunities, it just opens it up for everyone else. I believe Caitlin has stated this herself in some interviews. And I love that she's not the player who thinks it's all about herself. Rather, she's showing love and respect to those of us who came before her. She shares the wealth with her teammates, and Shedison have to do that. So I just don't understand why Caitlin is receiving so much love. She deserves it, and she's changed the game in a way that many other players have. But it's just what it is, simple and unquestionable. Then Stephen A. Smith, one of the few mainstream voices willing to say what so many in the WNBA won't. addressed players who were upset about Clark's TV exposure, and made the ideal analogy that Michael Jordan hadn't yet winning titles. But his fame was so immense that the NBA advertised everything around him. Why is that a problem when we've seen this work before? As someone who has watched the NBA and grew up watching it, I would say this: regardless of how great Michael Jordan was, it all began with Bird versus Magic. Sure, you could talk about Showtime vs. Boston, but that white superstar lost to that guy named Magic in that national championship game at them. Bottom line is that it helped to increase the popularity. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark embraced this because it's okay, because all you do is compete. That's when the story changed, and Candace, Lisa, and Stephen A. didn't just defend Clark. They revealed the bitter core of the situation. Michigan State. When he was at Indiana State and then eventually entering the NBA, and they were constant. They met in the finals roughly 3 times and owned most of the 1980s in terms of the two teams, respectively. The haters' arguments were dismantled live on national television. And I said this as well: that's a flag or foul, that's not a FL. Okay, Angel's foul right here. That wasn't a no, Angel, that's more Howard in the back. She did push it. They call. Caitlin, who seems to be pointing out that call before you got to look at the different angle. The first foul, I said, no, it wasn't. But here's my thing. If Angel or anyone else had committed the exact same kind of foul to Caitlin Clark, the storyline would have been different. Candace Parker's ESPN truth bomb wasn't just a defense of Caitlin Clark. It was a line in the sand. She was a top WNBA legend with the credibility to speak out without fear, calling out the league's toxic undercurrent of jealousy, race baiting, and media spin for what it is. Parker sent a clear message to the WNBA. Either embrace this moment and Caitlin Clark's impact, or risk destroying it. The league must now decide whether to continue, allowing bitterness to dominate the conversation, or follow the example of legends like Parker. Parkers.com/logical interview exposed the haters, silenced the whispers of resentment, rejected the excuses, and shattered the racial narratives, as Candace Parker so eloquently stated. Let's keep it about basketball. That's the only path forward. If you stand with Caitlin Clark and believe it's time for the WNBA to embrace her impact, hit that like. Parker and Leslie should support the players who are advancing the game, because this isn't just about Caitlin Clark anymore. It's about the WNBA's future, a future that depends on welcoming new fans, celebrating stars, and keeping the focus where it belongs. Basketball.click. Sign up for more and share. Did Candace Parker leave a remark for us? Simply drop the truth. Bomb on the league. Required to know that we will be observing.